the mini reshuffle, so to speak. We know that there have been some members of the provincial legislature who lost their lives in the province due to various reasons, and therefore this left openings or vacancies, shall I say, in these very critical posts. Now, previously in my conversation with you, you were quite critical of posts being left open, and were calling for the immediate filling of those posts so that the work of government continues. So what do you make of this reshuffle?
Good evening, Thabo, as well as the viewers. The IFP welcome the reshuffling, the appointment of Jomo Sibiya and Peggy Nkonyeni, because knowing them, they do have the capacity and ability to perform. The only worrying factor is that it took the Premier more than 50 days to fill up the vacancy, which clearly demonstrates that he had a challenge within the organization to decide who to deploy into these positions. But we do not want to dwell on internal issues. The two people are welcome. Peggy Nkonyeni understands very well. The Department of Transport last year forfeited 1.6 billion rand, which went back, yet roads are unmaintained, a lot of potholes, capital projects not finished. We hope she will be vigilant to deal with this department, because it is a culprit every year. They underspend consistently. Similar, Mr. Sibiya, he knows very well, public works is a failure department. Many projects in various departments that have to be constructed, they remain incomplete for many years because of the poor performance of the Department of Public Works. We only hope that they understand the plight, especially of the people in the rural areas and black townships. These departments will need to use the budget vigilantly, with prudence, accompanied with integrity and honesty for the benefit of our people. We hope they will effectively introduce consequence management, that if there are senior officials or any employee who does not perform his duty or her duty and eventually make the failure of the department, swift action must be taken, and the looters of the public purse, actions must be taken quickly so that the tone is set and the message is sent that corruption and inefficiency is not going to be tolerated as we mitigate against the negative factors of COVID-19.
Now, I mean, does it go towards strengthening governance? I mean, we're talking here, I think 2 weeks ago, the Auditor General was saying that the KwaZulu-Natal Department of Transport is unable to determine, for example, what happened to 17 billion rands that the Auditor General ruled had been spent irregularly.
That is why we said, knowing Honorable Peggy Nkonyeni, she does have capacity. I think we should not take credit from her in that. In deploying her in this department, I hope the Premier had reflected very well. It will be up to Honorable Peggy Nkonyeni to rise to the occasion. The IFP will be vigilant in the portfolio to have the portfolio accountable and operating in a transparent manner so that every rand and every cent is being accountable for. She is very well aware that she is occupying the department, which is troublesome and a culprit for many years in terms of underspending and sometimes also to fiscal dumping towards the end of the year.
Have you been effective, though, and I'm going to bring in the other gentleman here as well, but quickly touch on this, Hlabisa. Have you been effective in that role of oversight? I mean, let's just look at that department. The Auditor General flagging 16,000 transactions worth the 17.8 billion rands of irregular expenditure, and these have been accumulating over years. Do we expect the incoming MEC to be able to turn these around These have been there for years, with the opposition parties being a part of this legislature, knowing about these and unable to turn things around.
The failure to turn things around in this department is the failure of the ruling party, the ANC. We have been pointing out these inefficiencies as we are even now pointing them out. We will carry on pointing them out until such time people decide to vote out the party that is failing, given the power to do things, and vote in the IFP, which is an official opposition, to turn things around. But now we will give support to the new MEC. It is up to her if she is going to continue a failure in this department, as this department has a track record of failing the people of KwaZulu-Natal.
Francois, you're saying this is another instance of current deployment and patronage dispensing, has got nothing to do with strengthening governance in the province. Why?
Well, thank you very much. Good evening to you and good evening to the viewers. Let me firstly say that I agree with my good friend and colleague, Honourable Hlabisa, in that this has taken a long time. It's taken too long. A critical post, such as transport, safety and security, should have been dealt with a long time ago. And then one is left wondering why it's taken so long. The one matter that I need to humbly disagree with my colleague and good friend is the MEC Peggy Nkonyeni and her appointment to transport. We must never forget that this MEC was MEC of Health, and there was an investigation called the Three Amigos investigation, where 144 million rand disappeared between COCTA and the Department of Health, which she was then MEC of, disappeared. And that matter was never brought to conclusion. The matter was dropped. The matter was then pushed back into the courts by the DA. And currently, the matter is being regurgitated and being brought back to life.
What is the principal charge in this matter?
There was 144 million rands worth of irregular and fraudulent expenditure when it came to the acquisition of water purification plants and also oxygenating equipment, which was part of the Department of Health, and COCTA at that time, which was Mike Mabuyekulu, was in fact the MEC, and that was the Three Amigos. That matter was never ever concluded. Now, you know, if the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal tells us that he wants to ensure that there's no corruption and that he wants to assure accountability and consequence management, then surely to goodness, you can't appoint an MEC who has a cloud hanging over her head into a department that has underspent its capital budget during an economic crisis, and that capital budget would have assisted in job creation, and furthermore incurring astronomical figures of irregular expenditure. It's just absurd that somebody of this character and no real track record. I'm afraid Peggy Nkonyeni does not have a great track record. If you look back at her governance during her MECs of the various departments, she doesn't have a great track record, and she's now going into a department such as transport, which is critical to trying to stabilize the economy and bring about some sort of employment in critical financial times.
Has she been found guilty, though, Francois, in any of these allegations that were put against her? And I suppose the Premier would say, well, none of these matters have actually found her guilty. So what is this dark cloud hanging on her?
Thabo, my rhetorical question to you would be, has she been found not guilty? In fact, no. The case was dropped. There was never any official statement saying she was found non-complicit or not complicit in any of the allegations against her. Now, I trust that during the Zondo Commission's trial, that this will come to the fore And hopefully we'll get some clarity on, in fact, what went down with the three amigos and MEC Nkonyeni when she was MEC of Health in the province.
All right, Francois, much appreciated. Khoza, good evening and welcome to the Newsfeed Late Night. What is your take on the appointments of the two MECs, particularly the one into the Department of Transport?
Thank you very much, Thabo. Greetings to yourself and your viewers. Our take as the EFF on this what you call a mini reshuffling is that on both these appointments, the Premier has actually erred. Let me tell you why I'm saying he has erred. He has not applied his mind. I think he has made this appointments or deployments based on trying to appease the factions of the ANC. If you look at it, if we can just dive a little bit into ANC politics as they play themselves out. Firstly, it is the known fact that he was with the NDZ faction, and it is known now that he has moved to the CR17 faction. Here's the important thing about this whole thing. It's that the people that is appointed is actually trying to appease the NDZ and both the NDZ and the CR17 faction. But I want to pass there and come and zero into specifics about the two MECs that he has appointed. Let's start with Jomo Sibiya. Jomo Sibiya has been the chairperson of the Education Portfolio Committee, which is far away in terms of his experience and seniority. That is far, far away from the department that he is been given, which is Public Works and Human Settlement. You will remember that
in simple terms, Khoza, you're saying he's inexperienced. Is that what you're saying in this portfolio?
He's inexperienced. He doesn't have capacity. For the last 2 or so terms, he's been the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee of Education, where massive under expenditure and backlog in infrastructure development prevailed. If he could not get toilets, proper sanitation at schools, how is he hoping to deal with such issues of infrastructure and public works level? But one important point, though, is that he was accused as early as last year, together with the mayor of Newcastle, Mashaba, and the MEC for Tahlumuga, for having abused women and gender-based violence. The ANC set up a tribunal. Witnesses could not go and testify because they feared for their lives. So they were let go. So they won that case on technicality, and that cloud will forever be hanging on his head. On the issue of Peggy Nkonyeni, who is now the MEC, the new MEC, the problem with her, you will remember, I won't touch on the three amigos case that again where charges were dropped. But she was with Public Works recently. There's an article that says in her department, a tender of 380 million rental of offices was recently awarded to a very inexperienced company that was registered 2 months ago. And that company belongs to a daughter of one of the MPLs of the ANC. And that company has quoted 100 million more than the next bidder, but that was awarded. We thought